Lauren is just, again, such an individual. I feel like everything she offers is so original and classy and sophisticated and from the heart. She is one of the most generous people I know, and it shines through in her business. That's what's so cool, because I know her personally, but when I see what she offers people, and she's good at Snapchat too, by the way, follow her, it's such a true reflection of who she is. And I think that's so key in succeeding. So if you don't know, Lauren is a television presenter, host, personality in the past, / journalist. She has an amazing blog. It's called Lauren's List. Used to be called Lauren's List. It is now called You and Lou. And I just want to live in a make-believe Lauren world, because her world is very pretty and I just can't keep up. Mine is far messier than Lauren's. And before I bring her out, yes, she has the best body you will ever see in your life. Her stomach is ridiculous. I tried to work out with her trainer. I didn't get exactly the same results. Bring the booty, the beauty, all of her out. Lauren, come on, girl.
I mean, I need you to introduce me all the time. That was phenomenal. I just need to carry Kat around with me so I can have that kind of introduction always. Hi, you guys. I hope you're having fun today. This, I think, is probably my 3rd or 4th Simply Stylist event that I've done. I love Simply Stylist because it's an opportunity for so many kind, driven, dedicated, like-minded people to come together. I just want us to encourage one another and motivate one another and to really learn from the best people in the business. So I have the honor of interviewing 4 of what I consider to be the best bloggers in the business. These 4 ladies are dominating the space. They're incredible on all social platforms, and I'm so excited that we get to learn from them today. So first we have Geri Hirsch. Come on down. She's one of the first bloggers to really dominate the space. She's behind Because I'm Addicted and also the co-founder of Leaf TV. Yeah, give her a round of applause. We have Teni Panosian, who dominates the beauty space. She does a million great glam videos. Her videos have been viewed millions of times, which is phenomenal. Kaitlynn Carter, behind the Western Wild. She's also the co-founder of the Foray collective. Give her a round of applause. And last but certainly not least, Cristman. Her videos have also been viewed millions of times, a style expert and fashion blogger. So I think this is the point in time where I get to play Oprah on my little chair, although I think our chairs are even chicer than Oprah's chairs. So I want to give each of you girls a chance to introduce yourselves as well and say hi to everyone here. And I'm also curious as to what motivated you to make a career out of blogging. So I would love to, in your introduction, kind of give us a little background on what motivated that.
Sure. Do you want me to go first?
You go for it.
Hi, guys. My name's Cristman. I am a YouTuber, and I also have a blog. And I'm a style correspondent now for E! I am part of their E! Style collective. I started my channel 6 years ago. I've been making videos now for 6 years, so it's been a while. When I first started, one of my friends had a YouTube channel, and I was like, who cares? Like, why do people care about what you do on YouTube? It's so weird to me. But I started to investigate what she was doing, and I really just felt like I was called to make a YouTube channel, and I was like, okay, I feel like I'm gonna do this. And within the first 6 months, I got partnered with YouTube. My management company found me. I had over 40,000 subscribers, and it just started growing from there, so that's why I'm here now.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kaitlynn.
I'm Kaitlynn, and I have a lifestyle blog and also a fashion e-commerce company that I just launched a couple of months ago, which I co-founded. And the way I got started was actually years and years ago when I studied abroad in college in Italy. I had a blog that I used as a diary and a way of communicating with my friends and family back at home. And then that actually spiraled into the blog that I have now. When I moved to California, again, it was a way for me to keep in touch with my family back at home. So my blog is a little bit more of a kind of a journal and diary style, where I really delve into some of the more personal details of my life, and it's about, you know, how I travel, and it is fashion also, but it's a little bit of everything. And I was also a journalism major in college, so that's like my real passion is writing. And I started Western Wild 2 years ago, and so that's what I'm doing now.
The way I got started was I kind of always thought I was going to go corporate and go into like advertising or something because that felt like the safe, logical thing to do. And so I kept going through schooling. And then once I was almost done with my master's, I was like, well, you can't go any further than this. So you got to decide what you're going to do. And it was at that point where I was like, all right, I knew that I needed to do something creative with my life. I mean, I would do well in corporate, but just because I was going to be good at it didn't mean that that's what I should be doing. So I just I threw caution to the wind and just thought about blogging. And I really wanted to write. That's like probably my biggest passion in life is writing. So it just seemed logical to start a blog. So that sort of came about from that. And then about a year and a half later, I started my YouTube channel just because it made sense. People just wanted rich media. They wanted to see different forms of like, more entertaining content, I guess, which made sense for YouTube. So that's my journey.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Hi, guys. I started my blog because I'm addicted in 2005. So when I started, there were no conferences. It was not an industry, so I'm very humbled and honored to still be in the business. I started it while working in a full-time job that I was not super jazzed about, and I stuck with it every single day. I continued posting to something I didn't know if people were reading, and then one day Lucky Magazine emailed me, and they were like, hey, we really like your blog. We'd love to feature you in our magazine. And I was like, what? You guys read my blog? That's crazy. And it's sort of taken off from there. I've done clothing line collaborations, national television commercials, anything that you can imagine, including starting another company, which some of you may be familiar with, which is called Leaf TV. We make hundreds and hundreds of how-to videos for cooking, home decor, fashion, and now we're super focused on wellness. And I'm proud to say that this past summer we sold it to a public company. And I'm still creative director, so if you're into our videos, don't worry, they're not changing. And this year we're launching commerce, which is really exciting.
I think one of the most exciting things to hear from all of these bloggers is that you've made major businesses out of them. So I know you had said, what's the safe and logical decision? And I think now going into blogging has become this really well-respected space, and they are proof that you can create a really incredible business out of what you do. Now, I know a lot of you probably started a blog. I know, Geri, you mentioned you were already working a full-time job, and I'm sure a lot of people here who want to get into this space are working other full-time jobs. So what's the best way to balance trying to have a really consistent blog while still having to go to a 9-to-5 job every day? And any of you can answer.
I would say the best thing to do is plan out your content. If you have other things going on, that's totally okay. You can still run a blog and have a job. I know for me personally, working on so many different outlets, whether it's a blog, a YouTube channel, or shooting with other companies, when I'm shooting with E or other outlets, I have to still be posting and have that content ready. So what I've started doing is really pre-planning out, okay, what does this month look like for me? What do I want to get across this month? What's the content I care about? I pre-shoot my Instagrams weeks in advance, so I have outfits pre-shot, ready to go. So I have everything like all gridded out weeks in advance.
Even on Instagram?
Even on Instagram.
That is really impressive. I need to step up my Instagram game. Do any else of you have any other recommendations on how to balance that?
I actually still have a full-time job. My blog is something that I'm doing on the side, even though it is a very profitable business. And just to reiterate what she said, I have a content calendar and plan everything in advance and shoot everything and have it queued up so that I'm not stressed about having something due while I'm at the office.
I think, too, that a lot of you started at a time when it was really different. Maybe there weren't as many people who were trying to get into the space. And I think now that seems to be such a big question is, with a lot more competition and with more saturation, how, if you were approaching it today, would you approach it differently? And do you have recommendations for people who are doing that?
I think the most important thing is really honing in on what your interests are that you want to tell people. Really think about what do you want to say to people and how do you want people to know you as? It's easy to come out and be like, well, oh, there's makeup bloggers, I can do makeup, and there's fashion, I can do makeup. But if that's not your main passion, don't try to grow an audience around that content, because 2 years in, when you're burnt out from doing makeup and you want to give up, all of your audience is going to be like, we signed up for makeup videos. What do you mean you don't like doing makeup? So for me, I really learned through this that I love fashion, I love home. I can do makeup, but it's not my strong suit. So I just completely push that aside and I don't even touch it anymore because I know what I'm actually passionate about and what I want my viewers to know me as. And then also another thing is really let your personality show. I know that sounds like such a thing your mom would say, like, be you, you're so unique. But really, there's so many bloggers out there, and these people just really want to know who you are and know your personality and feel like they're in your life. So really just let your personality show, and then they can find you and engage with you versus just trying to replicate what you think is popular.
I couldn't agree with that more because, you know, starting when I did, I guess like 4 years ago, maybe a little more, compared to now, back then, I was like, I want to make this online magazine, and I did like a business plan, let me like research my competitors and stuff, and these were like huge, like big publications. I mean, that I guess that was somewhat valuable for me as far as like learning goes, but, you know, along the way, obviously back then it was such a new thing that, you know, nobody really knew like the right path, but yeah, along the way, you definitely learn that it's way more about your personality because everyone's out there creating content, good content, and that's great, but you're going to connect with people because of who you are. So, yeah, that's definitely what I would do differently now.
Yeah, I would, again, to kind of reiterate what you're both saying, one of the biggest compliments that I get related to my blog is that people feel like they really, like I'll have girls come up to me in public at events and they'll just say, I feel like I know you so well, like we could be best friends, you know, because I'm really open on my blog with, you know, what's really going on in my life, and I share a lot of like the personal details. I mean, not too much, but, and I think that that's what really, for me, attracts a lot of my readers and the people who really stay loyal to following me and my blog is that they just know me, they feel like they know me really personally. And so I think it's most important that they feel like they're almost like your friend, like they're connecting with you. It's not some distant person who's, you know, just online. It's someone who I feel like they know.
If I were to start today, I probably wouldn't start a blog. I would focus on the platforms that people go to every day, which are YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook, and that's where I would invest all of my time, and I would focus on what is next. So Vine had a moment. Right now, Snapchat's having a moment, and I would really focus on those places because it's really hard to say to anybody, like, please go to my blog. Like, they have to bookmark it, they have to remember to go there every day. So figure out what platform works for you and focus on that and be the best on that platform.
I think that's a really good piece of advice, and I think it's also a really big shift that's happened over the last couple of years where more and more people are paying more attention to these social platforms because they're easier for people to go on. And like you said, the website, there are so many websites that it's a little tougher to convince people to go to those websites. Of course, with more social platforms, that means that you're having to keep a lot of things updated. So that was another big question I had is, do you pick one? Do you say, okay, Instagram's my focus or Snapchat's my focus in the beginning? Or do you test all of them? It also gets a little tough because it starts to take up a lot of time in your life, you know, when you're trying to keep up all of those platforms. So, you know, for someone who maybe isn't sure which platform works, what would be your best recommendation?
I think you need to be on at least Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and then if you don't want to do YouTube, you can have a blog, or if you are on YouTube, but you still need to have at least those basic platforms. I also really love Twitter. I know a lot of people are kind of like fading on Twitter. I don't understand that. It's so fun. But as far as an audience goes, you can't really count on viewers to just come back and know that your videos are there. Subscription boxes are great, but sometimes they don't work, and having those other platforms really tell your viewers when your posts are coming out. So I time when I post on Instagram, it's always on Thursday, and I'm like, hey guys, PS, my new video just went up. Click the link in my bio to watch the video. And that's a very calculated, every single Thursday, that's going up so people know I have a new video driving to my main source of content. So as far as those platforms go, I think you need all of them, but you need a different voice on every single one. Instagram for me is where I post really beautiful, curated fashion imagery, but then on Snapchat is where I show more of my real life, that in the moment kind of situations. It's more of my personality. Same with Twitter, and then YouTube's where you get the full picture.
if it helps anyone to decide, which platforms you want to dedicate your time and energy to, know that Facebook this year, because Facebook for a lot of us, especially those of us who were in college when Facebook came out, when it was just like one profile picture and nothing else, Facebook's kind of like, ugh, like that's old. I totally hate, I'm not into Facebook, but I have to be into Facebook because this year Facebook pages is like the business profiles or whatever it is. That's going to take off this year because they're really focused on native video, and they're sort of going to be like a competitor for YouTube. So they're going hard with their videos, and they're going to start monetizing. They're in beta right now, I'm pretty sure. So just something to think about is that Facebook is definitely on the rise.
I think too, especially with Snapchat, that seems to be having this big moment as well. And I think, as you mentioned also, Carly, that's where you can really show off your true self. And I think to be very open, and it takes people into your homes and into your everyday lives, and that gives people an opportunity to really get to know you. So I think as you're kind of testing out these platforms, that's a really important one as well, because it just gives people a new window into what you're doing. So for people who maybe have had a blog for a couple of years and they're trying to figure out how to take it from point A to point B and making those connections and networking and really turning it into a business, how do you actually start making money off of the blog? Because if they're creating really great content, and then how do you turn that into something that really can be a profitable business?
Well, I think it requires a lot of patience, and it takes time to really get to a point that you're. Well, for some people, I guess maybe it doesn't. If you're really strong with creating great photography and imagery, and you have really strong content right off the bat, you might be able to get going a little bit quicker. But networking is really everything, and so I would just say, any little event that you can start going to, you'll meet another person who will invite you to another event, and then you start to meet other bloggers and people in the industry, and those connections are really what will eventually get you jobs. And then you might have to do some for free, and in fact, you probably most definitely will. And so you do those, and then eventually you're creating content, and brands see that you're working with other brands, and you're doing a really good job for them, and then you start to be able to make a little money. It just takes time, and really a lot of effort. You gotta really put yourself out there and be willing to, invest in new relationships, and so yeah. Anyway, networking really is the key to that, I think, and patience.
I think also, just to kind of like piggyback off what she said, just to sum it up in like one phrase: if you build it, they will come. You just have to be persistent about it and keep putting out good content, and they will notice. They'll come to you eventually. It'll start to trickle in. But I also would suggest well, I don't want to say investing because it sounds like a lot of money, but there's like plugins and stuff you can put into your blog for like SEO. At one point, I think if you searched beauty blog, missmaven.com was like the third one from the top, right after the beauty department. And that was all SEO that I did on my own, and I'm not a web professional at all. It's just you do a little bit of research, read some articles about proper SEO practices. So it's just like little things you can do to have good visibility in search too, because that's also important.
Kind of what Teni is saying, as far as like YouTube goes, tags are so important on your videos. So whenever, like my videos in the last year, my traffic has grown like crazy because I've really invested into tagging and creating good thumbnails. So in your videos, if you do YouTube, what you should be thinking of is, how would I search for this type of content? Because your title might be morning routine, but if someone's searching easy morning routine, girls morning routine, college morning routine, that seems like it's not that much of a difference, but you need to put all of that in your tags, because then anytime someone searches for that, your video has a higher appearance rate in all of those searches, so you'll get viewed more. Also, I think networking is important, but I think you should focus on networking with the people who make sense for your brand, and also people that you actually genuinely like. You can really tell online when people are just trying to like get in a photo with someone just to tag them. And for me personally, it's so annoying if people are just like, hey, you want to like collab? You want to take a photo? And you're like, you don't even like me. Like, what are you talking about? So I think it's really important to really try to create genuine relationships in this industry, because the girls that I've collaborated with have been my friends across YouTube for 4 years, 5 years. We've known each other for so long, and we really know each other's content, and we respect each other. So that's how you really create genuine traffic over each other, because they see that you actually engage with each other and like each other, not just, oh, you were in one photo together. My other advice would really be to invest in your content. if you want to make money from a blog or a YouTube channel, you have to put money into it. And I know that's kind of frustrating when you're not making money from the beginning. So you don't have to start off by hiring a photographer and having some $2,000 camera, but you do need to have a good camera. Try to focus on filming in areas that have natural lighting. Really try to make the best of what you have before working up. But then you can reach out to brands if you already have a decent amount of content, and you can be like, hey, I know you probably won't pay me right now, but would you send me a product? Can we work together on something? And then you can start having those relationships, so then when you have better content and more followers, they will pay you for it.
I totally agree. And the only two things I would add are, number one, there's a lot of companies now that are connecting content creators with brands such as Tapfluence. They don't pay necessarily incredible rates, but if you are trying to monetize, that's an easy way to start doing it and to work with brands. But make sure that you ask yourself, like, is my content good enough? Am I where I should be to even try to be working with brands? Because if the answer to that is no, you're not going to get a good response from the brands once you are on those platforms. And number two, if you are a YouTuber, go to some MCNs and say, hey, maker, I love what you guys are doing. I follow all these channels that work with you. Would you consider me as an applicant to your MCN? And they will then go out and sell you to brands.
Sorry, one more piece of advice I have is if you know that ultimately you want to be working with like a Chanel or some kind of fashion brand, your content needs to match what they would want to work with. I know so many girls who are like, I want to work with Chanel, but they're posting like club photos. And it's like, that's totally cool if that's what you want to do, but like Chanel would never align themselves with that brand. So you really need to think to yourself, okay, down the road, what does this look like for me? I know for me, I really appreciate high-end clothing, high-end photos, visuals. So for me, it's like, if I want to work on that level, I need to be on that level before I'm paid to be on that level. So I personally am paying a photographer and a videographer to shoot all of my content for me. It's a lot of money and a lot of time. But if I want ultimately to have high brands hire me to create that kind of content, I have to do it first.
I think that's just part of manifesting it, which is probably why you've been so successful, because if you envision something and then you go after that specifically and you know what you really want, I think then the goal becomes much more attainable. So when you guys are talking about brands, obviously in the beginning, you may not have as much power to pick and choose which brands you want to work with, but just like your relationships with other bloggers and vloggers should be genuine, I think those relationships with brands should also feel really genuine. So in making those decisions, what goes into that?
I think for me personally, like if there's brands that I've publicly said that I don't like, I've had some of them come to me before and be like, hey, we'd love to work with you, and I have to turn down this amazing deal because I'm like, my viewers know. You know, you can't just flip-flop because money's on the table now. People know what you've said and what you like and what you enjoy. So for me, when a brand emails me, I'm like, do I like this brand? Would I actually wear this brand? And then from there, it's like, how much creative control do I really have? I've turned down some great jobs with brands that I actually liked because they wanted to dictate so much of what I was doing. And for me, my voice, my content is so important, and that's what got me here. So I'm not going to just throw that away for quick money in the meantime. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous at this point for me, at least, because I'm like, when people are inviting me to stuff, I'm like, is it gray? Is it going to match my Instagram theme? Because I can't do it if it doesn't. So that's a little outrageous, but it's true. I'm so constructed in what my content looks like. I really am emailing people being like, but are the chairs white? Will it match my photo?
We have white chairs for you today.
This is so on brand for me.
I would agree. I think it's really important to be able to say no and to know who you are and who you've chosen to represent, like as your brand, or what you've chosen to represent as your brand. And I mean, I've said no to a million things as well, because it's either, like you said, you don't have creative control. So I think it's just being really strong, knowing yourself, like even sitting down and coming up with everything in advance of, you know, exactly how you want your brand to go, what type of brands you want to align yourself with, what kind of image you want to project about yourself. Like you said, if you want, are you going to be posting nightclub photos, which most bloggers I don't really think do, but just not good lighting. But you know, like, I mean, those are things that you really have to think about. Like, how do you want to be portrayed? And then, and like you said, align yourself with those brands that really fit you, and then it will allow you to take whatever product or you know, clothing or whatever it is that they want you to help promote and really make it yours. So it feels authentic, and that's another way to keep your followers, because they do know you. They know you better than, you know, the brands do. So it's good to be able to say no.
Social media honestly makes it really, really hard, because there are very clear trends about, like what's going to get me the likes and what's going to get me in with what the popular girls are doing, and there's a very clear, style of dressing or like style of photo and certain, I call them social media brands that, some social media influencers are working with. And I can't reiterate enough what they said about you can't, oh gosh, how do I do this without calling like any brands out? You really have to embody what it is that you're trying to go after. So if you're, okay,
We
let's.
all know the brands.
If you're dressing a certain way, which is great, everybody, you have the right to do whatever you want. That's you. But you can't expect to be working with the Dior's and the Chanel's if that's what you're envisioning. You have to align yourself with that specifically. I mean, everything you do, honestly, if you're trying to monetize with your blogging, with your social media, everything is strategy. Snapchat, be you and interact with your supporters, and that's what I love about Snapchat. But when it comes to the pretty photos on Instagram and how you speak on YouTube, it's all strategy. Can't stress that enough.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I think consistency is really important with that too. And when you go to a new Instagram feed that you're following, there is a certain consistency that I think now is more expected than ever because there is so much competition. So when you can really create something that people know what they're coming for and it's beautiful in whatever its own way is, then they know what they're coming to. And I think, Carly, especially I noticed that with you, but with the gray and the black and the white, because even your YouTube videos are branded that way. So across all of your platforms, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, you know exactly what your style is. That can be a little tricky. Obviously, not everything always, will fit into that color range. Or you can pick and choose events, like Carly, and just go to the black and white events.
I think it's actually made it easier for me, which sounds like it would be harder. I mean, when I write emails to brands, I'm like, I can't believe I actually have to email asking what color the chairs are. I feel so ridiculous. But on a real life scale, it's made my job so much easier because now there's no pressure for me when I go out to events or when I'm hanging out with people because it's like, I have stuff pre-planned. This doesn't even go with my theme. I'm not spending every moment then being like, oh, maybe I should get a photo of this because it's already done. So I can actually really enjoy the real life moments and then really be working in the work moments. But it's not like this blog is a 24/7 job all day long where I'm trying to shoot and capture content because I've really figured out what is my brand.
That's incredible because I feel like I obsess over this 24/7, so I still need to figure that out. And I think probably a lot of you who are just starting, it is until you kind of get that figured out, it will be on your mind 24/7 because you're trying to find that consistency, which can be really difficult. And for me personally has been probably one of the hardest parts is just figuring out exactly what that voice is and what people, are really taking to. But I think if you can envision the brands, it sounds like then they really come to you too, if you can really, envision it. Have you guys ever questioned your journey? Have there been times where you thought, oh gosh, I was not built for this, I need to get out of here?
Yeah, I actually had a really crazy experience. If you have watched my YouTube channel, you know this, so I'm sorry for repeating it if you've already seen it. But back when I was living in Chicago, which was 2 years ago, I was in a really serious relationship, and we were talking about getting married, and when I was really thinking about like, okay, am I gonna give this up? Am I gonna give up social media? Am I gonna, get married and have kids? What am I really doing? Out of nowhere, we broke up because his parents were like, we hate that you're on the internet. What you do is so terrible. We would never want our son to be with a girl who had a blog. Like it was just like so terrible about what I was doing in social media. And I just remember being like, I really feel like I'm supposed to be in this space. Like I really feel like the connection I have with my viewers, the stories I'm getting to share, I really don't think that's true. I don't think this is something that's wrong. So after that whole situation, I ended up moving to LA because I was like, if I'm going to pursue this, I'm going to pursue it 100% and really give all I have to this. And within the first year of me moving to LA, I signed with E. So that was kind of a big moment for me and kind of just like, I'm obviously made to be in this career and it was really exciting for me.
I have also, just sort of when it comes to like the evolution of the industry and the way that things are moving away from, well, sometimes they feel like they're moving away from Instagram and they're moving to different platforms of social media. And then just when you master one, it's like you think you now you got to start a whole other one. And so I think like sometimes down the line I'll freak out like, well, what if it all changes and it's not something that I really want to be doing anymore? Like for me, Snapchat is not something that I'm really that passionate about. I love photography and I love, I love Instagram, I love my blog, but if everything's going to move in a different direction, what am I going to do, And which is part of why I started my fashion e-commerce startup with my friend Tiana. We just launched in November, Foray Collective, which I mentioned before, as a way for, no matter what, to ensure that I've got something else going that I'm really passionate about that I love. So as everything evolves, I have, options to do something different or continue if I want, and I can stick with what I'm doing and not have to worry about the, platforms evolving and changing.
I think there were a couple of things that made me question whether I belong in this space, and one of them was specifically because if any of you are on YouTube, you know that this is kind of a major thing, is a criticism. In the beginning, thank God, I have a very small percentage of negative comments because I keep it, I'm not polarizing one way or the other, but I was losing sleep over it for a while. It was earlier on. I was like, what is this? Why are people being so mean? So that kind of got to me for a bit. But I think that, when you love doing something so much, you just kind of tune that out and you recognize that that's just something that's going to happen. And it is so much easier now. I'm a very sensitive person. I take things very personally, but now it's so much more, you just get used to it and you realize that, it's not about you. It's constructive criticism. It's great. And I get it and I use it. I actually use it and it makes my channel better. And I love that people give me that and take the time to give me the constructive criticism. But then the nasty stuff, you're just yeah, I'm sorry, that sucks for you. Well, and you have to move on from it.
You also have to, I think you have to make that decision too, that of course you might have thousands of positive comments and then 10 negative comments, and I think we all do this at times. You sit there and you stare at the 10 negative comments. Why do we do that to ourselves? I have no idea, but it's enough to kind of bring you down and to lose sleep over it. And I think if you are opening yourself up this much, you have to decide that you'll look at it constructively, but don't stare at the negative comments. Stare at all of those positive comments and all the people that you're influencing and touching, because the few people who are writing a negative comment, they're still watching you, for one. So I still say they're still a fan. And also, really pay attention to those people who are loving you and supporting you, because you are connecting with them and you guys are opening yourselves up to them. So I think that's really important. Geri, I want to give you a chance to answer that question though too.
When I started my blog, there were no expectations out of the blogger, and now you're expected to have a beautiful Instagram and share your life, and I happen to be very private, so that has been a big challenge for me. I also don't have thick skin, and so when I do put myself out there, it doesn't always really feel good for me. And I also find it all to be so exhausting, to be totally honest. But I love what I do, and there's so much upside when you do open yourself up. So I am working on vulnerability. And my other practice is letting go of anything that doesn't serve me. So when I do get those negative comments at the end of the day, I decide to let those go and move forward.
As far as negative comments go, just me personally, when I was starting out, because they really do affect you in the beginning, especially when you're just having a small audience and you're getting such great feedback, and your first hater comment, you're like, what? So what I would do then, because your first reaction is you want to defend yourself. You want to be like, what? You're wrong. You don't know me. But if I ever wanted to react to a negative comment, I would tell myself, okay, if you want to react to one bad comment, you have to first respond to 10 positive comments, because there really is that many more positive comments. And by the time I would get through the positive comments, writing them out, I'd be like, I don't even care about this person. So that's a real way that you can actually stop yourself from being angry at a negative comment. Me personally, I've had people come on my channel and tell me that I have a genetic disorder that makes me so tall. People say the craziest stuff. It was kind of funny though. Me and my friends were Googling it. I was like, do I? Do I have this? I don't know. So we obviously, just in case you were wondering, I don't. Cool. But when I look through those comments now, I'm just like, this all looks like a personal problem. When it's constructive criticism and it's about hey, your mic is not good. I can't hear you. Your lighting, maybe change it. Sure, that's all stuff I can actually work on, and I want my videos to be better for my viewers. But when people are like, you're tall because you are missing a chromosome, I'm like, okay. That sounds like
you
a
want to know
personal
something?
problem.
My nickname for Carly is Stems McGee. She has the world's longest, most beautiful legs, and we all want that.
I agree, they're so beautiful. I was stalking all of you before today, just FYI, and I was staring at your legs for a long time. I was like, wow, I really need those legs.
This is real life example of 10 positive comments. See, we're not even thinking about my missing chromosome.
Just take in the positive. So in terms of your personal and public life, and I think Geri brought up a really good point, because everyone has really different comfort levels in terms of what they want to share. And especially when you get the negative comments, then it kind of makes you want to not be as open. But when you have to be on so many platforms, especially now, how do you balance the digital life and how you're connecting with your viewers, because you want to be personal with them, and then balance that with also, your own personal relationships, whether it's with a significant other, with your parents, your siblings, who maybe aren't that interested in that digital life, but because your viewers know you so well, they want to be part of that.
I think you really need to look around you and decide, again, what do you want your brand to be? And then if you're someone who's like a vlogger, you need to see the people who are close around you, do they actually want to be on camera? Is this something they want to be involved in? Because if they don't, it'll show on camera. So instead of being like, oh, I wish I could be, this kind of vlogger, but my friend doesn't want to, reformat and be like, no, this is who I'm going to be despite all of that stuff, and figure out how you can be without all those other things. For me personally, because I've gotten so pre-planned about things, it's made living so much easier, because then when I'm with my friends, I can truly just be with my friends and be Carly the person, not the blogger. So I don't even bust out my phone to take Instagram photos or my vlogging camera to vlog us, because I'm like, I've got all that stuff set and done. I can just be a real person now. And that's not to say that I don't put my real life in my channel, because I definitely do. And I have vlogs with my mom, because my mom loves being on the camera. She'll tell you, bring the camera out. And my viewers love her. So it's still a way for them to engage with me on a real life level, and I tell them that kind of stuff. But then when it comes to personal relationship on the day-to-day level, they don't have to see that.
This specifically was a really tough process for me, because I'm I'm very private by nature. I'm just an introvert. I'm alone a lot. That's just how I'm comfortable. So when I started seeing a lot more engagement in my channel and on social media was when I started opening up a little more, and I was honest about it. I wasn't just like, all right, today we're just going to change and be really open and not say anything about it. I was honest about it. I said, you know what, I have a hard time opening up, so just know that this is really awkward for me. And the response was really supportive and positive, and especially through Snapchat. I resisted Snapchat so much. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And then finally I came around and I said, okay, fine, let me try this. And that's kind of made the difference for me, to be very honest. I want to be more open, because I know that the struggles that I go through, other people might be experiencing that too, and that could help them. And so it's funny, because my friends and family, I have to tell them all, they tease me about my Snapchat all the time. I'm like, it's not for you. Don't watch my Snapchat. This is for my supporters. And, they tease me all the time about it. I'm like, this is, because, people who don't have a digital presence, they use Snapchat in a very different way than the way we use it. You know what I mean? This is like our own little personal reality show day to day. So it's like, yeah, I get teased about it all the time. Like, shut up. Don't tease me. But yeah, it's for me, it's been a process. But, if you are more private, just know that your audience will, be supportive and sensitive about you, slowly, showing more of your life. You don't have to all of a sudden be this completely different person who spills everything.
I'm laughing about what Teni said, because my brother called me once and he's like, your Snapchat is like signing up for the Marines, because it's a 2-year commitment. Why am I watching a story that's 100 seconds long? And I'm like, it's not for you. Yeah. Same thing.
It's so true though, because I think we all, in a way, we're like, okay, our friends and family watching this, but you have to recognize that it isn't for your friends and family, and it's for everyone else and the people who are watching you and supporting you in a very different way. But it is really hard to accept that in the beginning and to figure out how to make that work and to balance that.
That is something with blogging and YouTube and everything. The first couple years when you're building your stuff, you are going to have that criticism from people in your real life who are like, this is weird, and it's going to feel weird, but don't listen to those voices. If this is something you want to do, separate it, know what you're doing, and go after it. Because I know when I started this in 2010, YouTube was very unheard of. That was back in the beginning. There were some channels, but as far as mainstream goes, if you told someone, hey, I'd make YouTube videos, they'd be like, like, what? It was super weird. And so people in my school, people in my hometown, everyone was very confused about what I was doing. And it wasn't like a cool thing. It wasn't like, she's a blogger. It wasn't like I had all these accolades yet. Back then I was just strange. So if you want to get to the point where you are making money and like having this as your real life job, you do have to know that you are going to face that kind of criticism and awkwardness, but it's okay.
Yeah, and I think you'll feel like you face that until you have something that's really concrete and you can say, oh, look who I signed with or look who I worked with. But I think to your point, Carly, you have to make the decision that this is what you're doing and then really go after it and to not kind of listen to all of that criticism. I'm curious to know if you guys had one major I made it moment. I know you mentioned the eStyle Collective, but just a moment that you thought, okay, I made the right decision. I'm in this for the long haul.
You know, when I mentioned I was researching like my competitors in the space, back then the Pop Sugar brand was, well, they still have them, but it was like the Bella Sugar, the Mama Sugar, whatever, and all these different categories. And I was in love with the sugar company. Like I was like, wow, everything they do. And they had I don't know if you remember this, but like they had animated like women for each like category. It was so cute. I really liked it. And so I just was obsessed with all their sites and I'd look at it all the time. And then when they approached me to be like, oh my gosh, we love your content. We want to like post it on our stuff. I was like, oh, that's nice.
They love me. Kaitlynn, do you have something?
For me, there isn't exactly one specific moment that sticks out in my head. It's just a little bit more of like there have been milestones throughout the process where I feel really good about where I am and what I'm doing. And, you know, working with a brand that I've really been wanting to work with for a while and they approach me or, you know, making, you know, I have developed a lot of relationships that I really, you know, value throughout this process and, you know, being able to get everyone together in one place for dinner, even unrelated to work, but just to like have all those new friends and, you know, those relationships are really fulfilling to me and they make me feel like I've accomplished what I really, you know, set out to do, which is like just be happy in what I'm doing and be able to have a good time doing it and be proud of what I'm doing and proud of the people that I'm working with. And so I feel like on a pretty consistent basis, like even yesterday we did a photo shoot it was like a Coachella lookbook for my e-com and for Foray. And just being able to call my girlfriends and be like, let's all go out to here and do like a shoot and we'll get, you know, and we're just all hanging out and having a great time. And so being able to work with people who I like really genuinely love on a day-to-day basis just makes me feel successful every day.
Do you want to add anything, Geri? I do actually have a couple specific questions, especially for Geri and Kaitlynn, because you guys decided to create businesses that were related to what you were doing on your blog, but were not directly connected to the site. So you're now kind of running two different businesses, and I'm curious as to what motivated that and how you balance that.
You want me to go first? So mine came out of like I mentioned earlier, I studied in Italy when I was in college, and so one of my girlfriends from Italy was over here in LA just visiting. We went to have lunch, and she had started a fashion e-commerce. Well, it was actually a fashion app, and it was successful, but it wasn't quite going as well as she was hoping it would. And she started asking me about, you know, how do I monetize my blog and how does it all work, and just kind of wanted to know a little bit about the industry. And then somewhere along the line, we came up with the idea for Foray, what is now Foray, and it's evolved a lot since then. So she really actually got me going, but I had always known that I wanted to do something beyond my blog. I just wasn't really sure what it was, so I was so lucky that she approached me and said, "Why don't we work together and try to come up with an idea for something new, you know, where we can make something out of what you're doing with your blog and your social media." And it's turned into something I'm really passionate about. So, you know, my big focus really is on making that into something big at the moment. And so it's easy because I'm so passionate about it to really balance both. And they tie in with each other really well. So I've been really lucky in that sense that I can kind of make both work, and I love both of my jobs.
For me, I think I struggled with the notion that a blog was a major business. And so when I started Leaf, while I also had my blog and launched Leaf off of it, it was something that I wanted to be taken much more seriously. Now I think as a blogger, it has evolved and it's different. But at that time, I was like, I'm going to go raise capital, and I'm going to be sitting in front of venture capitalists, and I'm going to be saying to them, invest millions of dollars into me. And that needed a different lane. And that is why I created a totally separate business.
And do you feel like that for both of you, that they've played really well off of each other? Have you found, even more success on your blog because of this other company that you have?
Definitely. We launched it off of my blog because we started creating all these videos, and I had a built-in audience, which was incredible. If you guys have another business idea and you already have a blog and you have a built-in audience, you are so far ahead of the game than the other person who has no audience. But what's funny is a lot of people don't realize that I'm like Geri, Hirsch, they follow on Instagram, the person behind Leave TV, and the blogger behind Because I'm Addicted. So I'm trying to do a better job at closing that loop.
I just want to say that I kind of felt the same way when I started my blog, because there were so many. I haven't had it for that long. It's been just about 2 years. And so it's actually really intimidating going out and trying to start a blog when there are already so many really successful ones. So I've been in the same shoes as a lot of people who are just starting out now. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm not the best blogger, there's so many incredibly talented women who already do this, who I follow. And so I always kind of knew, I'm not going to be that. I'm just, there's just things that I don't have, traits I don't have, organization skills, and I'm not the most fashionable person, and I'm not, I love to write, so that's what I really focus on. But I always knew that I wanted to do something business related that I could spin off of my blog, and what it's allowed me to do by having my other business is feel really good in what I'm doing, I'm really accomplishing a lot, because I'm much better at the business aspect, than I am at necessarily blogging specifically. And it's made me more motivated and feel more legit, I guess, when I'm blogging. Makes me feel more successful at blogging because I have something else going on that I'm really proud of.
And I think it just goes back to really loving what you're doing day in and day out, and to be really, really passionate about it. So whether it is that you're blogging or you're starting another company, I think to all of your points, it's picking something that when you wake up every morning, you're going to love doing, because everyone can read that. They can feel that when they're reading your blog or they're going on your Instagram or your Snapchat. I think you could really feel that passion and to recognize what you are really good at, or what you might not be that great at, and then you either work with others, I think, who can help improve that, or you start another company, and then that's just to kind of be able to channel a lot of those passions. I think I want to open it up to questions. I think we've got about 15 minutes, so I'll actually come around, and so you guys can talk into the mic, and you can ask specific questions. So I'll come up to you. That way we can hear you well. And if you'll also say your handle as well, if you would like to give your Twitter or Instagram handle.
Nice. Okay, so my name is Luis. I'm here from the Netherlands. And by the way, Carly, I think if you come to the Netherlands, nobody's going to think anything of your height. People are very tall.
Thank you.
So I'm the founder of Fashion Potluck. It's an open social media network. We launched about 2 months ago. The whole idea is to have an inclusive, approachable space for fashion, beauty, and lifestyle for women content creators. And one of the things that we've actually noticed is the following, and Carly said something that made me think about this. You talked about Chanel, you talked about actually making, now that you've actually made it in terms of audience, that you can say to Chanel or Dior or Louis Vuitton, what have you, what it is that you want. And most of the content that we've analyzed on the web, on the internet generally speaking, regarding women content creators, they focus a lot on already existing brand names, a lot in the already dominant brand names and fashion brands. Now, my question to all of you is basically, how do you evaluate the new wave of content that's coming on board, whether it's minimalism, alternative, sustainable, ecological brands? How do you see those women content creators that want to come and show themselves and share their knowledge, their style regarding these brands? And at the same time, how do you see the brand names actually? I mean, these are up-and-coming brand names that are trying to make it, but they don't have the same audience or the same liking as already, established brand names. How do you see this, and what advice would you give?
What advice we would give to brands that are trying to...
Both brands and content creators. I want to talk about this.
Yeah. Okay, so to brands, I don't discriminate brands based on just the label or based on just who they are. It's really the project and the piece. I wear a mix of high-end and very low-end. I wear Target, and I love Target. No hate on Target. But it doesn't matter to me, the price tag. It's really my style and what fits my style, which is always constantly changing. So if a brand reaches out to me and they're like, hey, we might not be a high-end brand, but we really love your style. This piece really fits your style and we want to work together. I always respond because I'm interested in them. As far as the brand goes, I think if you want to work with someone who is established, you have to know that you have to have budget. It can't just be something like, hey, I have a $20 bag and you've never heard of me and I want free Instagrams. Like, that's not going to happen. You have to be realistic. So if you are a brand that's just starting out, you should really evaluate what girls fit my aesthetic, who can work with that, and what's my budget, and then go out accordingly from there.
I think also it's not just about what we want and who we want to work with and what content we want to create. We are content creators for people to enjoy and get value from. So a lot of what goes into my thought process when it comes to who I want to work with is this going to add value to my viewers' lives? And a lot of times the feedback is, thank you so much for mixing the high end with the more affordable stuff, because that's what they have access to. That's what they can afford. So it's not just what I can afford and what I can get my hands on. It's, I'm creating content for other people to, be useful to them. So that's, I feel like more than what I want, I think more about that.
Okay, we have another question right here.
This question is geared more towards Teni, but any of you can answer, I'm sure. You talked about SEO and how you ranked top 3 in Google. Do you remember any books that you read or any websites you went to that were, helpful?
I actually have SEO for Dummies. I remember buying that book. I don't recall really reading that book, but what I did was just on Google search, just searched tons of articles, how to maximize SEO, how to XYZ, just anything that had to do with SEO. And I will tell you, there's tons and tons of articles out there from all different, reputable outlets that will be very, very valuable to you, like 10 steps, 20 steps, a lot of those articles out there. But I will tell you, I said at one point it was top 3 on the first page because after layout changes, I am like manic, like I cannot stick to one layout, like I need it to change. I was just telling Carly, like I redecorated my house and like I'm already sick of it, like I need change all the time. So my blog layout changes a lot, and what I like to do is make the blog look a little bit different from everything that's out there. Unfortunately, what's appealing to search to the Google crawlers is lots of text on the front page. So as soon as I changed it to something that wasn't that much text, I'm like on the second page now. I'm not even, you know what I mean? So you have to take into account those things. Like, yeah, you may want it to look a certain way, but you also have to take into account what is more appealing to search. So yeah, that's pretty much the advice I can offer you. There's so many articles out there that can be helpful to you.
One more thing as far as search goes, I knew this because I started working with a business team who was like experts in Google and really helped me with this. And they told me as far as like YouTube goes, same with blogging, Google only reads text. They don't see images, they can't see what your pictures are actually of. So you need to be writing as much text as possible that fits with what people are searching. So in my description box, I feel so dumb doing this, but I write like 6 different versions of the title. So I'm like, hey guys, this is my spring morning routine. Watch me get ready with me this morning, because it's like get ready with me is a title, spring morning routine is a title. It's like I plug it into every sentence is a different version. So if you read it, you're probably like, we get it, but it helps in Google.
But also the details are very important, because she said you can't, search images, but even the file name of the image, that even matters, you know what I mean? So down to the last detail. But just make sure you're doing it in an industry appropriate way, because there's like black hat SEO. Don't do that. That's not going to be good.
Hi, I'm Ashley. So I work at a PR agency, and I don't have a blog, but I do want to work in the fashion industry. I don't dedicate too much time to curating my Instagram, but what I would like to know is, because I want to work in the fashion industry, do I start dedicating more time to that, or do I simply just make my Instagram private?
I think since you're in PR, are you in fashion PR or just?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I think if you're in fashion PR already, you're in the industry. It just depends on how much further you want to go with it. As far as PR goes, you don't need to have a personal face to go along with what you're doing. So you definitely don't need to do that. But if you want to be known more as an individual for PR, then you do need to start deciding what your brand is and curating that.
Thank you.
Also, alternately, and this is sort of an industry-wide thing, just entertainment in general, I hear a lot of like models even telling me, they're like, now when I get asked to be booked for a job, they ask me how many Instagram followers I have. It's unfortunate because, not everybody can like all of a sudden just have this huge following. You have to like really work on it, but that's just the way the industry is moving now. You know what I mean? It's
Just to add to that, I think almost more important than your own Instagram, it's getting to know other people who are big in Instagram, because that, for your own personal job, is going to take you a lot further in a PR company.
Right. Thank you.
I think too, I was just going to add to that if you, with an Instagram account, if you really want to post super personal, like me and my dogs, or my husband and I, or just, we're all by the pool, you can keep something, private with your friends, especially if it's still small and just starting out. And then if you want to have one that's really industry specific, you can start another Instagram account, and it's, that's a fairly easy fix. Do I have time for more questions? Okay, one more question, I promised you. I didn't get very far.
Mine is geared more towards Geri. I'm a jewelry designer, and I'm also starting a fashion jewelry blog, but I have really expensive taste when it comes to clothing. So how do you budget and come up with great content when starting a blog? I would love to buy a bunch of Tibby and Millie dresses and skirts, but I can't spend $3,000 a month for a blog.
Wait, so what exactly is the question?
How did you, when you started your blog with your full-time job, how did you budget for the clothing, the wardrobe first? And then also, how did you get enough content within that budget?
I still don't and didn't believe in putting myself in any type of debt or stretching myself to impress other people. So I made do with what I had in my closet, and now there's so many creative ways that you can get access to great clothes, whether it's pulling it from showrooms or in your text. If you're wearing something expensive but you want to monetize it, you can say find similar ones here, here, and here. And then when people go buy stuff from those links, you then can put that in a separate budget and say, okay, I'm going to reinvest that money into my business and spend the money on the clothing there. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you.
I'll come back down. That also just brought up a good point that we didn't get to in terms of how to make money and monetize your blog. There are a lot of affiliate marketing companies, so Shop Style, Reward Style. Those are super, super helpful in terms of monetizing once you kind of get to a certain readership. I don't know what you ladies use, but I think that that's also really important, especially if you're not quite to the point of where you're working with, say, a brand who's paying you for each post. You can monetize, fairly early on by signing up with an affiliate marketing company, and then you say, oh, I got this shirt here and these shoes here, and then if people either click or buy it, you do make a commission off of that. So I think that's really important when thinking about monetizing. Thank you, ladies. Was this helpful, you guys? They were amazing, right?
Hey guys, thanks for watching, and so glad that you're here. You could just take a moment and subscribe to our channel. You can do it by clicking here, over here, over here, or wherever that subscribe button is. Just click it. You'll get everything directly sent to you, first to know of all things Simply Stylist. Thank you so much, and if you don't, this dog is coming after you.